Grace and peace to you from Jesus, the Mother Hen, who gathers us under wing. Amen. Please. We all know the joke that begins, "Why did the chicken cross the road?" and the concluding punchline, "to get to the other side." That doesn't so much make us laugh, but groan with disappointed recognition of what it really is. Not a joke, but an anti-joke. The setup prepares us for the ending, which we expect will be funny or clever, but instead it's obvious and ordinary. What we expect is not what we get, and in this case, that is exactly the point. What makes this cartoon funny is that it takes that non-punchline and injects new life into it by playing with the phrase, "the other side." No longer about the literal road, but the path that we all must one day cross, like it or not. The passage today begins with a setup, an unusual one for those of us familiar with the ongoing conflict between Jesus and the Pharisees. Here, some of the Pharisees come to warn Jesus about Herod's murderous intentions. They tell him not to go on to Jerusalem because it will be risky for him. This kind of warning prepares us for an expected response. And though we are familiar with the outcome of Jesus' story, we still want Jesus to choose a different path. What we expect and hope is that somehow Jesus will offer a promise and a punchline that avoids death. Well, Jesus' metaphoric response to the Pharisees generates a vivid image of a showdown between a fox and a hen. He takes their warning and offers a riddle of his own, a brief monologue full of symbolism, foreshadowing, and cryptic language that makes it a bit hard to understand exactly what Jesus is talking about. So let's consider this image, then, of the fox and the hen. As Pastor John pointed out helpfully in the children's sermon, if given the choice, I wonder how many of us would choose the chicken as our spirit animal. Because in popular culture, chickens are not revered for their valorous qualities. In fact, to be called a chicken is not a compliment. It's meant to demean someone as cowardly, quick to run, easily frightened away from direct conflict. Not something we might aspire to be. While foxes are clever, cunning, energetic, and handsome, and of course we know that foxes are predators with power over chickens. When one gets into the hen house, there is little chance that all of the birds would survive such an attack. Yet Jesus chooses the mother hen as a symbol for himself, as he anticipates a confrontation with Herod and Rome. It is a humble image, a chicken down in the dirt facing off with a hungry fox. In Jesus' image, the mother hen is not alone, but senses danger that her chicks are unaware of. Hens can actually be quite protective when there is a threat to their children. And Jesus paints a picture of her with outstretched wings, ready to provide shelter and to gather her brood. It's a brave yet vulnerable picture of defiance, standing up to the powers, even if in the end the powerful will destroy the ones who get in their way. Along the road that Christians call the Palm Sunday Road, just outside of the old city of Jerusalem, there is a church called Dominus Flevit, which means the Lord wept. This road leads from the Mount of Olives down past the Garden of Gethsemane and right up to the Lion's Gate, which is one of the large gates that lead through the walls that surround the city of Jerusalem. Stopping into the church, you can look out of a decorative window, and you can gaze over the holy city. The Dome of the Rock is visible, clearly identifiable by its golden dome. You can also see the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, as well as to the left of the Dome of the Rock, the Church of the Lutheran Church of the Redeemer. On the altar of the Dominus Flevit Church is a mosaic of a mother hen spreading out her wings over her chicks. Around the outside of the circle are Jesus' words in Latin, "Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how often have I wanted to gather your children as a hen gathers her children under her wings." This comforting image is aspirational because Jesus tells us a hard truth, and you were not willing. In the mosaic, it is phrased as a question just below the chicks, offering those who commune there a chance to respond in a different way. And are you not willing? This is a Lenten question. As we look over the world, as Jesus gazed over the holy city, we so often want to weep. There's so much to keep us hopeless and despairing. So we often miss the beckoning of God in our midst as we try to reconcile the beliefs of our faith with what we see in the world around us. What is so easy to espouse in this gathering space as we confess the creeds and sing hymns can be hard to hold on to when we scatter out the door. How do we find a willingness to live God's love in a world so fraught with competing values and different expectations for how we should be? What causes the most dissonance for so many of us is how death fits into God's plan for us. We witness violence over and over again, with what is happening in Ukraine being just the most all-consuming at the moment. But we have local examples too, like the tragedy of domestic violence a little over a week ago at the church in Sacramento. We know how this trope plays out because we've seen it so many times. The one who has the biggest or the most weapons tramples the lives of the weak and innocent. We face our own mortality in these moments, even when we are not the direct victims of violence, disease, or distress. It brings home how vulnerable we all are to so much that is beyond our control. This year, our Lenten theme is humility, making room. And humility does mean making room for others, but also being willing to step into difficult spaces when the room is made for us, to seek community with our neighbors and those in our spheres because it keeps us grounded in the life that is all around us, despite evidence to the contrary. To defeat death, we must choose life. Jesus points us ahead to a time when crowds will gather with palm branches in their hands as he walks that Palm Sunday road directly into the city. The crowds caught up in hopeful expectation, chanting, "Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord." Then quickly trailing away as the mother hen prepares to face the fox head on. Perhaps they were unable to bear the violence that they know is coming and the death that reminds them of their own mortality. But in an act of vulnerable defiance of the ways of the world, Jesus will spread out his arms on the cross, reminiscent of those protective wings sheltering his people from the full brunt of death. Few people were willing to gather there beneath the shadow of the cross because death was not what they expected. It took them time to realize that what Jesus did on the cross transformed the punchline of death into a means of life. God gets the last laugh, as they say. So we return to the question, are you willing to be gathered? It doesn't matter if we can answer this question right now. It is a lifelong push and pull of gathering in and scattering as we wrestle with our faith. And Jesus continues to make room for us at the table and around the cross, holding ground with his own body given for us. Why did the Mother Hen walk the road to the cross? To get her people to the other side. Thanks be to God.